I want to tell you about the day I finally understood the difference between being loved and being useful, and how I learned to walk away from people who confuse the two. This is the story of how my family spent years treating me like their personal ATM while excluding me from their lives, and how I eventually found the courage to cut every financial and emotional tie that bound me to them. I woke up early that Friday. My suitcase was already zipped from the night before to changes of clothes, a sweater in case the cabin got cold, and a bottle of wine I'd been saving since Christmas. Mom had said the whole family would be there. Your father's rented something nice up in Yosemite, she told me on the phone, her voice brighter than usual. You'll finally get a break, Marie. It had been a long time since that kind of invitation felt warm. But I said yes. By 7:10, I was parked in front of their house, just like she asked. The van was already out front, one of those oversized black Sprinter things with tinted windows and a private driver who looked more confused than friendly. He held a clipboard in his hand and asked for my name. Marie Carter, I said. He scanned the list, scanned again, then looked up. I'm not seeing you here, ma'am. I thought he was joking, but the clipboard didn't smile. Just then, the side door slid open, and Ryan, my younger brother, leaned out, grinning like we were at a college reunion. Sis, he said, you made it. Apparently not, I replied, nodding to the clipboard. Ryan shrugged. Yeah, about that. This trip's kind of for people who still show up, you know? He held up a champagne flute already half empty. You're always working. We figured you'd understand. Inside the van, I caught a glimpse of Mom curled up against the window with her sunglasses on. She didn't wave. Dad was fiddling with a Bluetooth speaker. No one looked surprised to see me there, but no one made room either. I nodded once, not out of agreement, just acknowledgement. Then I stepped away, reached into my coat pocket, and opened the banking app on my phone. 3 swipes, 1 click, a confirmation screen, family expense card frozen. The driver glanced at me again, but I was already walking back to my car. No one called out. No one asked why. On the drive home, the bottle of wine rattled gently in the passenger seat, unopened. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even speed. I just sat with it, the weight of being almost invited. Turns out, I didn't need to be on the list to end up paying for the trip. It didn't happen all at once. That's the thing about slow erasure. You don't notice it until the space you used to fill is just gone. It started with a phone call back. In 2012, Dad had lost some hours at work. Just a rough patch, he said. The mortgage is fine. We're not asking for money. But by the end of that call, I'd offered to co-sign a refinancing. It felt like the right thing to do. Then it was Mom's dental surgery? $6,000. She cried on the phone, said the pain was keeping her up at night. I told her not to worry. I paid the bill directly to the clinic. Later, I overheard her at a family barbecue telling Aunt June she'd managed to handle it herself after some clever budging. She didn't even glance at me. When Ryan got caught up in some gambling mess, something about a bad loan and a friend who disappeared with the money I wired $5,000 into his account. He said it was a one-time disaster. 2 months later, he posted a photo from Coachella with the caption, worth every penny. He didn't tag me, of course. That Christmas, I bought a new space heater and had it delivered to their house overnight because Mom said the furnace was making noises again. She sent back a thank you by forwarding me a coupon for flannel sheets. You should get some rest, she wrote. You work too hard. Every family dinner, I was either taking a work call in the kitchen or updating their Wi-Fi settings while everyone else was having dessert. When Ryan showed up with store-bought pie, they lit candles. At one point, I told myself it was just timing, that I lived farther away, that my job made me less available. But the truth was, they never asked me to be present, only to be useful. Last summer, Dad called during my lunch break. He couldn't remember his online banking password. I reset it remotely. A week later, a transfer went out to a car detailing shop under Ryan's name. When I asked about it, Dad said he needed help getting on his feet. You know how it is. And I did. That was the problem. Every time they needed something, I showed up. Not physically. Ryan had that role. He brought bags of chips, forgot to take out the trash, left early, but he was there. And apparently presence outweighed provision. They framed Ryan as the loyal son, the one who stayed close. I was the background process, invisible, but essential. You only notice when it's gone. Last Thanksgiving, I sent a card with a handwritten note, a real one. I signed it with Love, Marie. It didn't show up on the mantle. There was a group photo though, Ryan holding the carving knife like a trophy, Dad's arm around him, Mom smiling, cheeks flushed. Someone had used a filter that made the table glow gold. There was an empty chair at the corner. I recognized the sweater draped over the back hit was the one I'd left there the year before. They had literally edited me out of my own seat. And still, I kept paying. One more month, one more bill, one more quiet contribution. Not because they asked, but because not helping felt like betrayal. And maybe I thought deep down that if I just kept saying yes, they'd eventually see me. They didn't. The calls started before noon. That Friday, after I froze the card, first it was Mom, her voicemail voice high and brittle. "Marie, something's wrong with the reservation. The card's not working. Did you maybe change something?" Then Dad, sounding irritated more than concerned. "Can you just fix it? We're standing at the front desk like fools." I didn't answer. The text came next, frantic, overlapping. Ryan sent a selfie of him and Mom outside the lodge, thumbs down, with the caption "family trip cut short. Some people can't let go." Number context, just the insinuation. I muted the group chat. Instead, I called Jasmine. She'd been a quiet friend for years, former coworker turned IT security consultant. We met once a month for coffee when our schedules aligned, which wasn't often. The last time I saw her, I'd helped fix her aunt's estate taxes. She said she owed me a favor. "I just want to know if anything weird's been happening under my name," I told her. I didn't expect much. Maybe a missed subscription or a duplicate account somewhere. But Jasmine was thorough. 2 days later, she sent an encrypted folder. Inside, a credit card application from 3 weeks prior. My name, my birthday, my social, Ryan's address, a flagged login attempt to my retirement account from an unfamiliar device tagged Carter Home, a customer service call to my health insurance provider, voice recorded. It was Mom pretending to be me. She'd tried to update my mailing address and add a dependent named Ryan. The cold didn't hit all at once. It crept in slow, like air from a door you didn't realize was open. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about permission, about how icily they assumed I wouldn't notice. Or worse, that I would notice and still say nothing. I sat in my apartment that night. Lights off, laptop open, the bottle of wine still unopened on the counter. I didn't need it. The sharpness was already in my chest. Ryan had borrowed $5,000 and never paid it back. Dad had slipped charges under my name. Mom had impersonated me, and I'd brought them pie. For years, I'd let the benefit of the doubt cushion everything. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe it was just stress. Maybe they meant to ask but forgot. But the signatures were clear. The dates lined up. The transactions weren't mistakes. They were habits. I didn't text them back. I didn't explain. I just stared at the screen and let the silence settle, thick and final. If they wanted me to play the villain, I could be one. But I wasn't interested in revenge. I was interested in proof. I started with the easy things: screenshots of bank transfers I hadn't authorized, statements with charges that didn't belong to me. $140 here, $78 there, most of them small enough to go unnoticed, but they added up not just in dollars, but in disregard. Then came the Venmo logs. Ryan had sent his girlfriend $500 marked for the cabin. The same weekend he told me he was short on rent. The same cabin I wasn't invited to. I pulled email records. A flagged alert from my tax software: someone had tried to access my account from an unknown IP, timestamped at 3:14 a.m. 2 days after I'd frozen the family card. I went back to the insurance call. Jasmine had clipped the audio cleanly. I listened once, twice, and then a third time. Mom's voice calm and pleasant, answering security questions like she'd done it 100 times. Yes, that's her birthday. Yes, she's added a dependent. His name is Ryan Carter. There wasn't a single tremor in her voice. I remembered how the week before, she'd texted me, "Hope you're staying warm. It's cold up here without you." That apparently had been the truth, just not in the way I thought. I began organizing everything. A folder on my desktop titled "What Family Costs." Inside, bank statements with notes, screenshots of Ryan's social media posts mocking bitter people who don't show up. The recording of Mom's insurance call, an email from Dad dated 6 months ago. "Can you move the car payment from my account to yours? Just temporarily. Don't tell your mother. She worries." And then one last file, a photo from Thanksgiving. Everyone around the table laughing. My chair empty. A pie I had shipped still in the box, unopened. In the corner, my cousin Brittany, grinning at something Ryan had said. I remembered she used to laugh when I got corrected in front of people. She still did. I stared at that photo longer than the others. Not because it hurt more, but because it didn't surprise me anymore. There's a kind of grief that doesn't come from loss, but from finally seeing what was never there. I wasn't grieving what I'd lost. I was grieving what I had pretended to have. I backed up the folder twice, once to a cloud drive, once to a USB. I kept taped under my desk. I'd BCC'd it to Jasmine and to my lawyer, labeled only with the initials WFC. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I wasn't planning to send it to anyone, not yet, but I needed to hold the truth somewhere outside my head. When you've spent years gaslighted by kindness, by phrases like you're just too sensitive or you always take things the wrong way, you start to lose your grip on what's real. This folder was real. I didn't need an apology. I didn't even need them to understand. I just needed a record, proof that I hadn't imagined any of it. The next morning, I printed the cover page. 3 words in bold black type: what family costs. Then I placed it in an envelope and slid it under the mirror in my hallway. Not for them, for me, so that the next time I started doubting myself, I'd know where to look. The invitation went out on a Wednesday morning. Subject line: family finances to 15 minutes. No explanation, just a link and a time. Friday at 7 p.m. Mom replied with a thumbs up emoji. Dad sent back, thanks for being the adult. Ryan didn't respond. At 6:58, I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, the bottle of wine still untouched beside me. I'd never wanted to drink less. They joined right on time. Mom had curled her hair. Dad wore a collared shirt like he thought this was a job interview. Ryan showed up last, chewing, gum chin resting in his hand. No one asked how I was. I didn't speak. Instead, I shared my screen. A folder appeared, titled What Family Costs. The first slide was a bank statement, a $600 transfer from my checking account to an auto parts supplier. Billing. Address: Ryan Carter. Dad leaned forward, squinting. The next was an email from Mom's Gmail, left logged in on my iPad last Christmas. Marie always helps. She won't even notice. Mom flinched. The third, a photo from Thanksgiving, my empty chair, the untouched pie, Brittany's smile frozen like punctuation. I didn't explain any of it. I clicked to the final slide. A voice recording played, Mom answering questions on a health insurance call, pretending to be me. The audio was clear, the answers confident. When it ended, the room of in virtual went still. Dad was the first to speak. Marie, he said, measured, this isn't we didn't mean harm. You've just always been good with these things. Ryan rolled his eyes. Jesus, it's a bunch of bills. You're blowing up the family over spreadsheets. Mom's voice cracked. We were struggling. We thought you understood. I looked at them, my parents, my brother, faces I'd known my whole life, suddenly unfamiliar. I did, I said quietly. I understood everything. No one spoke. I ended the call. There was no announcement, no final word, just a blank screen and the soft click of disconnection. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilt. I felt gravity, the kind that comes when something finally settles where it belongs. Not one of them called back that night. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. I didn't write a farewell note or send a dramatic group message. I just started making calls. First to the mortgage company. I had co-signed the house loan 12 years ago, back when Dad said he couldn't qualify. On his own, I filed the release of liability paperwork, submitted copies of their income, and got confirmation within 48 hours. Next was the bank. I revoked every shared authorization, the backup card Mom used just in case, the joint account Dad had quietly funneled utilities through, the auto payments Ryan had linked to my name. Each login, each cancellation felt like lifting a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. I contacted my accountant. Years ago, I'd set up a small trust. Nothing fancy, just leftover investments and bonds I didn't touch. My family had been listed as secondary beneficiaries. That changed. Now the trust pointed to a fund for first-generation college students. I didn't need to know their names. I just needed to know they weren't mine. I moved the next week. Not far, but far enough. I didn't update my address with anyone but my HR department. My new lease was signed under a privacy service. The utility bills were in my name, mine alone routed through a secure third party. No one could spoof them this time. I bought a second phone, loaded with a new SIM, new contacts, a new number. The original one went into a drawer. I turned it off without looking at the notifications. It would stay off a graveyard of names. That once knew how to find me, but no longer had permission to dot it. Wasn't revenge. I wasn't interested in watching them suffer or wonder where I'd gone. I just didn't want to be reachable. They had treated me like infrastructure, quiet, reliable, and always available. I wasn't anymore. The only letter I sent was to the family's landlord, a copy of the release paperwork, a copy of the unpaid rent history, a single line: please remove me from this arrangement. I am no longer responsible. He called to confirm. sounded stunned, said, "They always talk like you volunteered." I laughed just once. They talk like I didn't have a choice, and maybe for a long time I didn't, but now I do. And I chose to disappear not from spite, but from self-respect. 6 months passed quietly, like fog rolling over a road I no longer drove. In that time, no one knocked on my door. No surprise visits, no letters with return addresses I recognized. Just stillness, the kind that doesn't echo, the kind that replaces apology with absence. I learned new rhythms. My new apartment was small, white-walled with dark floors that creaked in the morning. The coffee shop 2 blocks down knew my name, but nothing else. My fridge was full. My phone only rang 4 people I chose to keep. I never reached for the old phone, not once, but sometimes word found me anyway. A former classmate forwarded a Facebook post from Mom, a blurry photo of their half-lit living room. Caption, "Sometimes the people you raise forget who raised them." Ryan had liked it, then commented, "Some people only show up when the lights are on." I didn't laugh, but I did close the app. Last I'd heard, the power had been shut off again. Aunt June called one afternoon, said, "If you just explained how bad it was." I hung up before she finished. They all knew. But knowing means acting, and acting means risk. It's easier to watch someone carry weight than to help them put it down. The final message came from Dad, an envelope with crooked handwriting and blue ink. 3 pages of legacy talk, bloodlines, a plea to put things back together. I tore it in half, then in half again, then again until it fit inside 5 envelopes. No return address. He sent another letter, shorter, angrier. "You'll regret this. You're still our daughter whether you like it or not." I sent one final reply, one sentence, bold and centered. "I was never yours. I was just useful." I never heard from him again. The new rug arrived that Friday. Gray background, clean font. I laid it outside my door and stepped over it as I came back from groceries. It read, "Not your emergency exit." And that was enough.